Obama gives the number one terrorist state on the globe, Iran, a pathway to nuclear weapons, and they're still chanting death to America. We know how that ends. And at the same time, the genius in the White House goes on Saturday Night Live and makes a fool of himself and a mockery of the presidency. And at the same time, the most corrupt woman in American political history is zooming up in the polls because of a little help from her friends in the media who cover up all of her scandals. And at the same time, our borders are being overrun by third worlders who will never assimilate, but they want us to accommodate. And at the same time, well, you get the picture. You get the picture. You get the picture. The big lie goes on. Shall I take some calls? You have any German music for me other than Rammstein? No, no one has it. Okay, I'll have to find out what this. I would like to hear some of it, German club music or whatever. I'd like to go to Germany before it's closed, like an amusement park. You know, I may go to Germany. I've never been to Germany. I may go to Germany and get there before they close it up, like Coney Island. You know, it could be a sign on Germany that says closed, out of business. Arabic spoken here. You never know what could happen. Meanwhile, I turn on the Drudge Report this morning, covert radio pushing Beijing propaganda in USA. Turns out the Chinese have radio stations all over America. You hear this? I couldn't believe it. China Radio International, a global web of radio stations putting out communist Chinese propaganda, China-friendly news across Washington and the world. Well, it's illegal, as you well know, but under Bill Clinton's, let's say, friendships with China, and Madeleine Albright's handshakes with China, and Sandy Berger's handshakes with China, it won't be long before your kidneys will be harvested and you'll be a member of the Falun Gong.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7288.
I don't like this. The vibration sound I don't like. I'll take techno music, but not the vibration thing, like with the neck. There was a guy, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a funny thing, and he would give me, like, touch it to my head. I didn't know what it was. You know, you talk about negative all the time. It's not all negative. Here's a story. The teen prodigy who flies planes and works for NASA. He's 17 years old. You hear this? He has 2 college degrees. He's too young to vote. Well, attention, Obama. He's too young to vote. He's a pilot. He's too young to drive a car alone. He's 17 years old. He's from San Gabriel, California. Graduated from community college at age 11. 4 years later, he had a bachelor's in math from the UCLA, a real school. And now he's working for a master's in cybersecurity through Brandeis University. He helps NASA develop surveillance technology for airplanes and drones. Guy is some kid, right? Published his second book. And let's see, he plans to have his pilot's license by year's end. He has a trove of trophies from martial arts tournaments. What a kid. He's like Superboy. Now, how did he get this way? His name is Moshe Kai Kavelin. Now, Moshe is a Jewish name. But I don't know. I mean, Moshe is definitely, it's not a Brazil. Okay, his mother's from Taiwan and his father's from Brazil. But Moshe is a Jewish name. I don't know where this came from. He says he's more ordinary than people think. But he credits his parents for pushing him, in plain English. You hear? They didn't send him out for Halloween to get candy corn. I guarantee they didn't get him a stupid costume for Halloween. He credits his parents for years of focused instruction, balanced by the freedom to pick his after-school activities. I don't know. Maybe he's just smart. But he's got all these martial arts statues in his house. Obviously, he speaks Chinese fluently. He's got all these signs in Chinese over him. But he was always smart. Come on. At 4 months, he pointed to a jet in the sky and said the Chinese word for airplane. Okay? That was his first word. You hear that? That was his first word. Let's see. Kavelin hit the limits of his homeschooling after studying trigonometry at age 7. You hear this? Trigonometry at age 7. And then his mother started driving him to community college. Can you believe this kid? That's amazing. 17 years old. So there's a hope. And you know, it's tied to a bigger story. And the biggest story is this. They say, liberal parents, beware of your millennials. They're very conservative. Did you know there's a trend in America of conservative children that are growing up in this country? They have turned on their parents' hippiedom. They have turned on their parents' drug, sex, and rock and roll attitudes. If this country can survive the corrupt political class, perhaps we will be saved by this generation that's growing up that loves America. And I don't know, it's like a tooth and nail thing. We have how many months left of the regime right now? Look at what he's doing. Goes on Saturday Night Live, Obama, and makes a mockery of himself and of the presidency. And then you got Ryan on the other side. I was on Laura Ingram's show this morning. As I said, the first question she asked was about Ryan. You know, instead of me repeating myself, I think what I'm going to do is this. Let's start the interview with Laura because it's so well done and it says what I'm about to repeat. I don't want to repeat myself. That's all. Let's hear the interview for a few seconds. Go ahead, please,
Michael
Robert.
Savage, one of the most popular writers and talk show hosts in the United States. His new book, destined to be just another massive bestseller, that's all. Government Zero, No Borders, No Language, No Culture. It is our featured selection on our wildly popular Facebook page. I want you to go there. We're going to put an excerpt up there of the book. And the cover, you see it's a great read. It's a cautionary note, but it's phenomenal, and we love Michael. Michael, how are you? Great to talk to you.
Well, I was listening to your... First of all, good morning, and thank you for having me on your show. I forget politeness. I live in a bubble.
Okay.
I think I know you so well that I forget to remember I'm on a radio show.
Yeah, just start it on me.
So let's just
right
have
away.
a conversation, Laura. Right. Paul Ryan is doing what the Republicans are well known for by now, which is called the kabuki dance. He's playing the nice cop to Obama the bad cop. That's to give us hope that he really means it. Now, you know it's a lie. The deal is done. The money has decided what's going to happen. We have no power whatsoever, which is why I call it Government Zero. But let me go into why I'm so cynical. First, I was not born a cynic. Secondly, I am an immigrant son, so this is not about immigrant bashing. This is about a lifeboat that is full. We're about to drown. If Obama is allowed to bring in millions of more, including God knows how many Syrian Muslim men of military age, there will be a civil war in this country. This is not Europe. We're armed to the teeth. People are not going to take what they're taking in Europe, where culture is being evaporated, annihilated, atomized. Can you believe what Merkel's doing to Germany? Can you believe about the Swedish lesbian reverend who was taking the crosses off the church and removing the pews?
Oh, I saw that. Not to offend people. We don't want to offend people with a cross.
You know, Laura, I made a controversial statement last week on my radio program, but I want to run it by you because you're a genius. And you really are, and you see things in a way people can't see them. Tell me if I'm crazy by saying the following. Hitler invaded other countries to impose his Germanic Nazi view on other nations. We all know that. But what do you make of a leader who invades her own country with Muslims who impose their culture on her people? Is that not a reverse form of, what shall we say, liberal fascism? What is she doing?
Yes, it's a purposeful annihilation of the European identity, whatever's left of it, the European
Why would
culture,
Merkel do that?
what's ever left of it.
Why is Merkel dancing to that tune? Explain it.
Well, I mean, I think there are a lot of really, really rich people who believe borders are superfluous, and we need to make it much easier for people in goods and services and businesses to move wherever they want, because that's the free market of people and the free market of services and businesses. So
Does that work in China? Do they have open borders?
Of course not. The countries that know that it matters to be a country, they do enforce their borders because they know without borders there is no country. You've said that for 2 decades.
2 decades, borders, language, culture. Every nation in the history of the world has been defined by its borders, language, and culture. Obama is an eraser. The whole New World Order is erasure. And by the way, you know who funded this in Europe? It's George Soros.
I was just going to say George Soros.
How is it that a survivor of the Holocaust could hate his host country so much that he would destroy them? How is this even possible?
And they say it's not about the money, it's about the money. What about the new backer of Marco Rubio, who looks like he's the replacement? He's the replacement candidate for a faltering Bush. So Marco's the fresh-scrubbed, well-scrubbed, presentable, very nice person. But he's out there, and he's the next new thing, and Paul Singer is his backer. Yeah,
I read that story in Breitbart, but look, I've called Rubio the ice cream man for a year now. much to the chagrin of my listeners, to say, why are you saying that he's a nice guy? We don't need a nice guy. They found a guy with an O at the end of his name, and they said, let's run him into the Senate. Now let's make him president because he's malleable. He'll do what we want. What more do people have to know? That you've got a billionaire Republican, Sheldon Adelson, in Vegas, a billionaire Democrat, Larry Ellison, of Oracle's, both supporting Rubio. They both have different needs from the stooge. The stooge will give Adelson all of the hotel workers he needs at the lowest possible wage, and the stooge Rubio will give Silicon Valley the cheaper labor that they all crave. You see, for sick people like that, there's no amount of money on earth that can cure them of the disease. Laura, you know, the Aztecs used to say about the Spaniards who were raping and pillaging their way through the Americas for gold. They claimed that the Spanish had gold fever, that no amount of gold could stop their insanity. We have the same thing with the class that's running this country and running the West. They're insane, and there's no amount of money. You're telling me Mark Zuckerberg needs more money? You're telling me Bill Gates, who calls for socialism, needs more money? What is wrong with these people? They're mentally ill. They're psychotic, all of them. People say, how could they be psychotic if they're so rich? Excuse me? Why, do you think wealth insulates people from insanity? I'm not poor. I've worked from being an immigrant son who sold comic books at age 5 in the streets of the Bronx to being fairly well off. But I am in a bubble. You know what kind of bubble? It's me and my dog. And so I see the world as it is. I talk to the mechanic. I talk to the housekeeper. I talk to the grocery clerk. I talk to the construction worker. I actually see things as they are. I'm not invited to any social gatherings. I've been ostracized because of my strong nationalist beliefs in this country. Nationalism is what frightens them. And here's the problem, Laura. I explained it to a German waitress yesterday who loves America. I said, how could Merkel do this to you? And she was a nice liberal woman. She said, I really don't know what she's doing. And I said to her, you have to understand that this desire to erase borders, language, and culture is being conducted by a group of the most evil psychotics the world has ever seen. What is it, 0.001% are dictating to people they should have no nation and no national identity? It's astonishing that we the people permitted it to get this far. And in Government Zero, I have a chapter called Zero Immigration, because that's what's required to save the nation. I don't believe for 1 minute that there aren't sufficient IT workers in this country to satisfy the needs of the greedy psychotics in Silicon Valley. You mean there's not enough money for Mark Zuckerberg? He needs more. He has to pay wages that are half that of an American worker. Zero immigration for 7 years. Let the Americans do the job. Train the poor kids who don't do anything how to do jobs. They can work if they were taught. Send them to trade school. We have a revolution that's occurring in this country being conducted by the most brilliant left-wing strategist the world has ever seen, named Barack Hussein Obama. Paul Ryan, John Boehner, Mitch the Gobbler McConnell, they're the opposition party.
How do we turn it around now?
I have 40 actions to save America in Government Zero. I don't just moan and groan. Number 3 on the list is deport all illegal aliens in American prisons. American prisons, that would be up to 1/3 of the prison population, which exceeds 2 million prisoners. And this is not an expense American taxpayers should be bearing, especially in a down economy. So when I say deport the prisoners, not the workers. No one's saying deport workers. Start with the 1/3 of them in prisons. There's no reason for us to pay for their care. Now, who would argue with that except the prison lobbies? The jailer lobbies, am I wrong?
Yeah, but what do you think about people using false documents to get jobs and work in the United States? You think that there's no deportation for that?
I don't even want to go there, and I'll tell you why. Because the minute you step into that, you get the left crazy and they say you're a fascist. Give them an argument that they can't refute. Throw them out of our prisons. Now let's see what they say about that. Start with small steps. If we get rid of the prison population, by the way, 1/3 of all prisoners are illegal aliens.
Yeah, it's an outrage. You never hear the candidate saying that, by the way.
Oh, so that's like 600,000-700,000. Deport them. That will create a sucking sound.
Hey, Michael, how about that? How about, okay, here's my prison reform. Deport all the people out of our prisons who are legally in the United States. That's going to save some money, don't you think? 40
points, 40 actions to save America. So you say, what can you do personally, right? Well, if we have a government that's working against the people, and we have a government that's allegedly responsible to the people and responsive to the people, I'm sorry, my friends, but short of a revolution, we have to work through the government. And so I've created the architectural plan. Close the borders for 7 years, deport illegal aliens, repeal the anchor babies law, make English